Everybody, Happy New Year. Even though it is not an astrological new year yet, the astrological new year will be March 21. It is a calendar new year, and we are going to have a huge shift in this calendar new year of 2026 in February. And what is the big shift? Well, we are going to see a red light, blue light shift. And what is a red light, blue light shift? Well, the astronomers use that term to describe a shift in direction of a celestial light emitting body. I will share the screen. Red light, blue light shift in astronomy, red shift, blue shift are terms used to describe the shift in wavelength of light as an object moves away from or towards the observer. Red shift occurs when an object emitting light is moving away, and then a blue shift occurs when an object emitting light is moving towards us. These shifts are crucial for determining the motion, distance, age of celestial bodies and universe itself. Now, recently, the astronomers have been reporting that they are seeing a shift in stars from red to blue. The astronomers have observed shifts in the stars from red to blue recently. The phenomenon is known as blue shift, which occurs when a star or galaxy moves towards us. So basically, when a celestial body shifts direction, changes its direction. And it causes the light to compress when something is coming towards us. When a body emitting light is coming towards us, it appears as blue. And when a body of light is moving, I have a nice picture of that here. When a body of light is moving away from us, it appears red. Wave source moving away is red. Wavelength is longer, frequency lower. When it is blue, it is approaching, a light wave approaching. The font are squished together. The wave fronts are squished together, and the wavelength is shorter and the frequency is higher. The Hindi created a cycle, or not created the cycle, but they created a chart and, shall we say, a description of the cycles of the yugas. They call them the yugas. And from their calculations, we are exiting and leaving a dark era. Now, as we leave this, we're leaving, here we are today, present day, leaving this dark material age. And we were in a golden era, which is spiritual, and then we descended into this dark age, which is material. The Hindi call it no Krishna, no God, no light. It is the age of worshiping of the false gods. They consider it a material age. And the galaxies have been predominantly with a red hue, meaning we moved away from a light source. And now there's a shift to blue light, which is towards the divine light, because we're moving towards the light source. So that's going to be a higher frequency as it's compressed waves, and it's closer to the light, which means we're facing light, which is higher consciousness. It's the spiritual age. So basically, to put it simply, we are moving in February of 2026. We are going to make a massive shift in direction. We're going to go from red light to blue light. Red, each color carries a unique vibration. Red is a lower vibration, and it is passion and vitality, and blue is calm and trusting and communication, and blue is the color of spirituality. Krishna is always depicted in blue because blue represents spirituality, a receptivity, the water that receives the divine. It's a connection to source, to spirit. So we're moving to a spiritually enlightened time, okay? So in every one of our lives, we are going to feel this shift, blue light shift, the blue shift. And it's going to look like some sort of major shift in our lives in an approach to something that we've been doing. Now, in Kali Yuga, the red energy was survival. But this is red energy is like war, it's combative, it's Mars. It's survival of the fittest type energy, right? And now we're moving into a spiritual energy, calmer, connected and guided by the higher consciousness, by having a connection to higher consciousness, by knowing it. So we're moving into a big spiritual era. So somewhere in our lives, we are going to have a big shift from red to blue. And I'm going to go through all the 12 signs and talk about that for each of one of you, of each sign, and how that shift from material to spiritual is going to look for you. All right, see you there. Everybody, Happy New Year, even though it is not an astrological new year yet. The astrological new year will be March 21. It is a calendar new year, and we are going to have a huge shift in this calendar new year of 2026 in February. And what is the big shift? Well, we are going to see a red light, blue light shift. And what is a red light, blue light shift? Well, the astronomers use that term to describe a shift in direction of a celestial light emitting body. I will share the screen. Red light, blue light shift. In astronomy, red shift, blue shift are terms used to describe the shift in wavelength of light as an object moves away from or towards the observer. Red shift occurs when an object emitting light is moving away, and then a blue shift occurs when an object emitting light is moving towards us. These shifts are crucial for determining the motion, distance, age of celestial bodies and universe itself. Now, recently, the astronomers have been reporting that they are seeing a shift in stars from red to blue. The astronomers have observed shifts in the stars from red to blue recently. The phenomenon is known as blue shift, which occurs when a star or galaxy moves towards us. So basically, when a celestial body shifts direction, changes its direction. And it causes the light to compress when something is coming towards us, when a body emitting light is coming towards us, it appears as blue. And when a body of light is moving, I have a nice picture of that here. When a body of light is moving away from us, it appears red. Wave source moving away is red. Wavelength is longer, frequency lower. When it is blue, it is approaching, a light wave approaching. The font are squished together. The wave fronts are squished together, and the wavelength is shorter and the frequency is higher. The Hindi created a cycle, or not created the cycle, but they created a chart and, shall we say, a description of the cycles of the yugas. They call them the yugas. And we are, from their calculations, we are exiting and leaving a dark era. Now, as we leave this, we're leaving, here we are today, present day, leaving this dark material age. And we were in a golden era, which is spiritual, and then we descended into this dark age, which is material. The Hindi call it no Krishna, no God, no light. It is the age of worshiping of the false gods. They consider it a material age. And the stars have, and the galaxies have been predominantly with a red hue, meaning we moved away from a light source. And now there's a shift to blue light, which is towards the divine light, because we're moving towards the light source. So that's going to be a higher frequency as it's compressed waves, and it's closer to the light, which means we're facing light, which is higher consciousness. It's the spiritual age. So basically, to put it simply, we are moving in February of 2026. We are going to make a massive shift in direction. We're going to go from red light to blue light. Red, each color carries a unique vibration. Red is a lower vibration, and it is passion and vitality, and blue is calm and trusting and communication, and blue is the color of spirituality. Krishna is always depicted in blue because blue represents spirituality, a receptivity, the water that receives the divine. It's a connection to source, to spirit. So we're moving to a spiritually enlightened time, okay? So in every one of our lives, we are going to feel this shift, blue light shift, the blue shift. And it's going to look like some sort of major shift in our lives in an approach to something that we've been doing. Now, in Kali Yuga, the red energy was survival. But this is red energy is like war, it's combative, it's Mars, it's survival of the fittest type energy, right? And now we're moving into a spiritual energy, calmer, connected and guided by the higher consciousness, by having a connection to higher consciousness, by knowing it. So we're moving into a big spiritual era. So somewhere in our lives, we are going to have a big shift from red to blue. And I'm going to go through all the 12 signs and talk about that for each of one of you, of each sign, and how that shift from material to spiritual is going to look for you. All right, see you there. Hey, Aries. Okay, you're going to have the big red light. Well, I should call it a blue light shift. And remember, this is not political. This is about light. It's about astrology. So I'm going to pull cards too for each of the 12 signs. So for Aries, you guys have Pisces in your 12th house. So you've been clearing an overall self-destructive. I have all these birds suddenly go flying by. You have a self-destructive pattern that comes from obviously a past life trauma that you've been playing out and repeating cycles that show you the belief that you hold that life is sucks, something like that. So there's and it's basically lack of spirituality, a lack of understanding a deeper spiritual reason. And Aries energy is often is the lowest chakra. It is for the material. It really is the sign that moves dirt around and that really moves the reality field around. And that is important. It's just this is the evolution for Aries is to have a recognition of the spiritual, shall we say, missing piece. So I'm going to pull cards. So let me just go ahead and pull some cards. So we got the Knight of Wands card came flying out. So there's your fire energy out of alignment because the first card that I pull when I do readings, if it's away from the center, it's out of alignment. So you've been out of alignment in some sort of spontaneity, in spontaneous choices that were maybe fear-based or out of sort of survival-based choices, out of spontaneity, impulsive choices that ended up being self-destructive because you didn't take time in making those choices and reevaluating whether you were repeating a karmic loop or not. Let's pull one more card and then I'm going to pull the chart. Wow, we get not knowing what you really want and feeling very burdened and out of alignment from it. So in other words, you didn't know that it was a wrong choice and it wasn't what you wanted till after you made the impulsive choice, and then you experience the burden of having made that choice. So I think Aries are learning that. That's why I get the Magician card, where you're going to start, where the big shift for Aries is you're going to start really tuning into that monad within some sort of deep spiritual center now before you make your choices. You've learned that you've made choices without really connecting with spiritual guidance or with some sort of higher guidance. So let's go ahead and pull the chart here for Aries. Here it is, February 13th. Saturn moves into Aries. You guys are going to be completely brand new people. You're going to have a very sort of spiritual awakening, a big spiritual movement within you, your body, who you are. You're almost going to sort of, it's a good chance, there is a very good chance you Aries people start dressing like gurus or hippies, or you change your identity completely and you become sort of like walkers of faith, as it were. Leaders, because the Aries are leader. You're having Neptune in your first house. And this is the new earth, which is we're going into spirituality. And Aries are the leaders in our earth, on our
The fire signs, Aries are the main leaders. So they're going to step forward and become the leaders into this new shift. You're going to help us shift from the red to the blue by not having impulsive, desperate, lower frequency, fear-based choices that only created karmic cycles for you and problems. Very difficult, a lot of difficulties. So now Aries are shifting into spiritual leaders. See, the Aries card came flying out. Um, Aries are going to step forward to become full on Aries, even though it's interesting because it's sort of a dichotomy with that red and the blue. Aries are red, they are. It's just that you guys are now going to be using your red energy, your impulsive energy, your inspired energy, your leadership energies to bring us into the spiritual realm or spiritual consciousness. You're going to be stepping into the Lamb of Ram. You're going to be connecting with your brain to source and leading us from there and in your own lives. All right, that's Aries. Have a wonderful new year. Namaste.
Everybody, Happy New Year, even though it is not an astrological new year yet. The astrological new year will be March 21. It is a calendar new year, and we are going to have a huge shift in this calendar new year of 2026 in February. And what is the big shift? Well, we are going to see a red light, blue light shift. And what is a red light, blue light shift? Well, the astronomers use that term to describe a shift in direction of a celestial light emitting body. I will share the screen. Red light, blue light shift. In astronomy, red shift, blue shift are terms used to describe the shift in wavelength of light as an object moves away from or towards the observer. Red shift occurs when an object emitting light is moving away, and then a blue shift occurs when an object emitting light is moving towards us. These shifts are crucial for determining the motion, distance, age of celestial bodies and universe itself. Now, recently, the astronomers have been reporting that they are seeing a shift in stars from red to blue. The astronomers have observed shifts in the stars from red to blue recently. The phenomenon is known as blue shift, which occurs when a star or galaxy moves towards us. So basically, when a celestial body shifts direction, changes its direction. And it causes the light to compress when something is coming towards us. When a body emitting light is coming towards us, it appears as blue. And when a body of light is moving, I have a nice picture of that here. When a body of light is moving away from us, it appears red. Wave source moving away is red. Wavelength is longer, frequency lower. When it is blue, it is approaching, a light wave approaching. The font are squished together. The wave fronts are squished together, and the wavelength is shorter and the frequency is higher. The Hindi created a cycle, or not created the cycle, but they created a chart and, shall we say, a description of the cycles of the yugas. They call them the yugas. And from their calculations, we are exiting and leaving a dark era. Now, as we leave this, we're leaving, here we are today, present day, leaving this dark material age. And we were in a golden era, which is spiritual, and then we descended into this dark age, which is material. The Hindi call it no Krishna, no God, no light. It is the age of worshiping of the false gods. They consider it a material age. And the galaxies have been predominantly with a red hue, meaning we moved away from a light source. And now there's a shift to blue light, which is towards the divine light, because we're moving towards the light source. So that's going to be a higher frequency as it's compressed waves and is closer to the light, which means we're facing light, which is higher consciousness. It's the spiritual age. So basically, to put it simply, we are moving in February of 2026. We are going to make a massive shift in direction. We're going to go from red light to blue light. Red, each color carries a unique vibration. Red is a lower vibration, and it is passion and vitality, and blue is calm and trusting and communication, and blue is the color of spirituality. Krishna is always depicted in blue because blue represents spirituality, a receptivity, the water that receives the divine. It's a connection to source, to spirit. So we're moving to a spiritually enlightened time, okay? So in every one of our lives, we are going to feel this shift, blue light shift, the blue shift. And it's going to look like some sort of major shift in our lives in an approach to something that we've been doing. Now, in Kali Yuga, the red energy was survival. But this is red energy is like war, it's combative, it's Mars, it's survival of the fittest type energy, right? And now we're moving into a spiritual energy, calmer, connected, and guided by the higher consciousness, by having a connection to higher consciousness, by knowing it. So we're moving into a big spiritual era. So somewhere in our lives, we are going to have a big shift from red to blue. And I'm going to go through all the 12 signs and talk about that for each of one of you, of each sign, and how that shift from material to spiritual is going to look for you. All right, see you there. Right, Taurus, you guys are going to have this big shift from a material approach to life to a spiritual approach to life in your, let's take a look. Where are we going to see Pisces to Aries is in your 11th to 12th. So I'm going to pull cards for all the 12 signs too. So you are going to feel a an end of a karmic loop where you're involved in, wow, I get the 2 pages. Interesting. The 2 pages come out. You're ending a karmic cycle of being involved in friendship groups for the sake of it, or shall we say, um, again, this is where we had fear. This is where we weren't in the light. So we would have made karmic connections that weren't supportive, that would have been self-sabotaging. This would be this, we could put it this way, making friends with people that pull you down rather than pull you up. So that's what you're doing. That's a cycle where you're now realizing that there's a higher, more aligned spiritual connections for you that are supportive, and that you don't have to lower your standards to sort of not be alone. So now you're going to have this big shift, and I don't just mean alone or just being in group situations that aren't really healthy for you. So that's sort of something that's completely changing, and you're discovering now you're going to have some sort of major spiritual awakening because you're going to have Saturn and Neptune in your 12th house. And that's the spiritual house. That's like the house of interesting. I have a Tauran friend who wants to really explore leaving the dimensions and going into the outer dimensions. The 12th house is the outer dimensions. So Taurans are going to be exploring spirituality on so many levels. They're going to want to escape reality and express and experience the higher dimensions. And it's almost like the opposite for Taurans, because the 12th house, the Taurans are very material in the sense that they're earth signs. That is the materials, dirt. They are very proficient in manifesting and materializing, creating objects in the dirt. Like I have a friend who is an actual ceramicist. And then I have another very good friend who has a lot of Taurus in her chart, and she makes things, sculptures, and beautiful things. So anyway, so Taurus now are going to become spiritual. I want to call it avatars, in the sense that they want to go for it, they want to find it, they want to get their hands on it, they want to know what it is, they want to see a material experience of spirituality. And then, of course, these are leadership energies. They then perhaps become leaders in retreats, spiritual retreats, um, helping guide people into ceremonies to help you become
connected more and to experience your own higher dimensional guides and beings that are with you. Because sometimes when people do that, the ayahuasca and things, they see like all kinds of people and a grid. So we got the double pages, you see, and this could also involve becoming, because that's an earth sign, that page, pentacles, and then we got a water page, and then we get um I see the strength card and then the world card. So it's like their strength of Taurans are very strong, kind of convicted. They're very self-convicted people. So it's almost like you're applying that. You're going to put a lot of your energy into some sort of spiritual, I want to say exploring the frontiers of spirituality. You're on a journey to explore, and this could involve travel too. And because it's the 12th house, I want to say you're breaking you want to break all the rules. And the reason that is the 12th house can be a self-destructive house, but it's basically a house where you no longer follow a grid Saturnian law. You find a spiritual law. So you're not following anybody else's laws anymore. You're finding a spiritual law, the cosmic laws. And then with those pentacles I got with those pages, that's information, knowledge, that's Mercury. So it's almost like you just want to explore and expand as much knowledge as you can, and then you become the messenger of or a deliverer of some sort of knowledge or information that you learn that supports your calling. All right, Taurus, that is for you. Have a wonderful, happy new year. All right, Gemini, where are you guys going to experience this big shift? It's going to go from Pisces, which is Saturn and Neptune are moving from your 10th house of Pisces. Pisces is in your 10th house to your 11th house in Aries. So we're going to have a shift from the 10th to the 11th. So what does that mean? That basically means that you have been on a karmic cycle loop of working in ways to survive rather than thrive, or job situations, or working on sort of keeping a status going, having a fear-based attachment to your public status, and trying to make sure that your work conveys that and underscores it and puts you in a good light, and you almost fear that your stability in your career is based on that. Well, now you're going to shift into a more public role and learning from that and finding some sort of more public position, because it's moving into the 11th house where you become a leader and you sort of don't care about that anymore. And that and now you just want to walk a more inspired path and being more of a, shall we say, because the 11th house is taking on a humanitarian cause, and you almost just, it's not that you don't care about your career anymore. You just decided that God's going to feed you somehow, and that now you just want to do what inspires and ignites you to take on a humanitarian cause and to motivate from that place and to be of some sort of spiritual significance in the new revolution. The 11th house is the house of Aquarius, which is a revolution. So you're sort of becoming a leader of the new revolution, as it were. You're becoming a voice and a let me share the chart. You're becoming a leader in social media, networking, or in the technology, some sort of a technological approach to life. We get the Nine of Cups. So you're moving into something that pleases you, that makes you more inspired, more happy. It's like it fills your cup to take on a humanitarian cause and be some sort of a leader in that area, and to sort of help restructure society in a way. Um, we also get the Nine of Pentacles, which is financial independence. You almost, because you become fearless about your career and you sort of don't care anymore about what people think of you or your reputation, or whether you're gaining status from this movement or not, or this shift or increase in your position in work or something like that. You're really fired up and excited to go on some sort of wild adventure and be some sort of humanitarian leader. You may quit your job and then go and sort of travel to become a leader in, or to become a help in volunteering in restructuring communities that have lost all their natural resources and becoming a part of reinvigorating communities. The range is big. You could start a community group and move into a community, what do you call it? Like your own little tiny home community. You could do that. You're creating your own tribe and you're finding your safe tribe, and then you're becoming a leader in that tribe and bringing that tribe into the new earth and improving the conditions, and also perhaps even expanding knowledge and this, I do get the Queen of Swords, so you are quitting something. You're quitting trying to be safe. You're quitting operating from a place of trying to always be safe. And instead, you're taking risks and being spontaneous and exploring. I get the stuck card. So you're breaking free from being stuck in a career and being stuck by your career because you're preoccupied by where your career is always doing. So now you're sort of setting yourself free, kind of socializing, getting out there in the world, meeting people, and perhaps, and most likely becoming some sort of a leader in what you've learned in clearing that 10th house karma, and actually becoming a person that is very recognized. The 11th house can be famous, and you do become more status, respect, or recognition through some sort of humanitarian effort, and you suddenly realize that you would have gained that security or that recognition that you thought brought you security. Now comes that recognition comes through your inspired actions and your inspired leadership in some sort of new humanitarian venture. I get the adventure card. See, this where Aries card is going to come up a lot. So it's like we're really finding our true passionate experience in life and letting God feed us and figure out how to feed us. That makes sense. All right. Happy New Year. Have a wonderful New Year. Thank you for watching. Namaste. All right. Cancer rising. You all, me included, are having this big shift from your ninth to your 10th. So that is the house of, you've been clearing karma in your ninth house, which would be about your spirituality. Your karma has been to clear your fears of being a spiritual leader or fears of stepping forward and exposing and expressing your spiritual gifts, or believing in yourself to be a teacher, or believing that you know enough to be a teacher, believing in yourself, believing in what you, shall we say, know to be true, the truth, being a speaker of the truth, not being afraid to be the speaker of the truth. The ninth house is higher consciousness and wisdom and knowledge. So you have become knowledgeable. I get the Page of Wands for you. You've become knowledgeable in some area in your life, connected to your career. And now that Saturn is going to move into your 10th house, you now become qualified. Now we're really looking at a big spiritual shift for you. So in Aries over your 10th, you would have done a lot of spontaneous, shall we say, seeking of careers from a lower density red chakra energy frequency field, which would have meant on, or shall we say, not trusting in your career that it will bring you stability, and following career paths you think do bring you stability against your truth that you know to be true in that ninth house. In other words, you're going to have a spiritual awakening. It's a similar message for Gemini, where you're going to believe that God's going to feed you if you follow the righteous path. You're going to walk a higher path. You were afraid to walk your spiritual path and be his true spiritual voice and teach and step forward because, well, we've all been persecuted. Those of us in our past lives that took on spiritual missions often were persecuted and ridiculed. And so now the fears of walking an unauthentic path in your career are dying, and you're now going to walk a spiritual path in your career, and you're going to step forward with a mission to serve, shall we say, the spiritual truths, to be a servant to the spirit. I'm not saying you're not going to serve humanity, but Gemini are more sort of focused on the material, the micro humanitarian sort of technological media communication type of thing. And cancers are going to be more devoted to the spirit realm and voice the truth and let the career suffer or not in response to that. And it will do well because cancers are going to be right. They're the truth that they've been able to unravel in their seeking of Saturn being there in their ninth house of learning higher education and understanding of cosmic laws is opening, has brought them to a place that they can then become leaders in their career and take bold strides forward to use their careers as a place to advance the spiritual agenda, which is to enlighten and empower humanity to become living more in a higher frequency experience, which is more connected to spirit. So our job, in a way, the Cancer's job there with Aries over the 10th is to become a leader in guiding humanity into an alignment with spirit and the truth, the spiritual, the cosmic truths. My favorite subject. All right, let's pop the chart for Cancer. And I can tell you that I do feel that. I mean, I just don't have any fears anymore. I don't feel at all concerned about whether people, I went through a lot of, I have Chiron on my MC in the ninth house, and I had a lot of times where I was felt insecure about being a tarot reader and astrologer. You know, it didn't seem like the way one could create a stable income. But we're not worried about that anymore. Again, I just trust I'll be fed, which happens to be the case. So, um, we are getting the Page of Wands, which would indicate that you're going to do what you really want to do. Remember, Aries is a selfish energy, which means it's doing what you want to do. And the reason that that's in alignment with the divine is because the divine is sending you what you want to do, because it's that Aries energy. So you're really aligning with your true passion and your true force, or the force within you that is here to lead and to believe in what you're leading in. And that is the karma that you're clearing. We get that Nine of Cups. We get the Nine of Cups, which is finding what fills your cup. So in other words, you're going to take your career more in alignment what fills your cup rather than it's the security choice. And you're going to know what that is. You're going to feel a very strong connection to what that is. And it's most likely teaching. Now we do get relationship cards coming in because Saturn rules your seventh house. So a lot of cancers are coming into relationships in that period. So you're probably coming into soul contracted mission, joint mission, right? But there is this energy of safety with that Nine of Wands. I use the Nine of Wands meaning that there's safety. So in other words, there's a feeling of safety and jubilance in this sort of newfound trust in the divine being there, and that if you serve the divine will only serve you back. And the divine, if you work for the divine will work for you. It's like if you help nature, nature helps you because it's in their interest. It would be in divine's interest to keep a Cancer fed because they're going to work on behalf of spirit and divine agenda, which is to raise humanity into a higher consciousness existence aligned with a more harmonic cosmic order. All right, have a wonderful, happy new year and namaste. Right, Leo, let's take a look at you guys. You guys are going to have this shift from Pisces is in your eighth to Aries over your ninth. So that's pretty interesting. You're looking at a big transformation. Some sort of deep rooted fear is transformed to faith. Let's take a look. Let's shift, see how the shift looks for Leo. So here we go, Pisces over your eighth, and then Saturn and Neptune are going to move into your ninth, where you're going to have a major spiritual awakening, where you suddenly discover that aligning with a higher truth, with gurus, with spiritual knowledge, with schooling, with like knowledge is power. Like there's this awakening that your life is going to become more enlivened, more invigorated through this sort of passionate exploration of either the world or new philosophies or new ideas. You may even invent new spiritual philosophies. You might even take us somewhere into a knowledge or into an aspect of spirituality that we haven't even explored yet. Through your exploration of new heights, new knowledge, you take us places that are new. The spiritual world is a new frontier where so astrology is going to be modernized. Everything is going to get a sort of upgrade, a more contemporary, we could call it fresh expression. So Leos are going to come in and sort of become a fresh expression of a spiritual truth, spiritual knowledge, or they become passionate travelers and explore other cultures and other cultural beliefs, and they find a unifying belief or a unifying truth that they then spread and teach to the world, or in their work, they communicate this unifying truth. But there's this transformation of karma where you end some sort of deep fear of either the occult, the hidden powers, or shall we say, fears about sticking your neck out and becoming a leader in any form. And instead, with this over the eighth, this is the house of transformation. This is a big transformation where some sort of deep fear of money, financial security, or just security in life. It's like the eighth house is almost like where we don't believe in God. And all of a sudden now you're going to see that believing in God is really going to take you to new heights. You believe in a certain God. The God in the new earth is more of a monadic God. In other words, it is within the center that we access it, which was Jesus' teaching, that divine and God is in our center. So we're going to find that center of God within, and the Leo is then going to lead in a cultural other way, like or maybe bringing other cultures to our culture, other cultural truths that help clarify and and create a galvanized spiritual sort of syncretism, a belief that our culture holds that then is shifted by a truth another culture shows and sees as truth, which then exposes a lie in our own culture or expands our own knowledge in our culture. The wanderer, the ninth house is the wanderer that explores. So you're becoming a wanderer and exploring new heights, untraveled roads, the new frontier. You're discovering a new frontier in spirituality. And Leos are teachers, so you could step in and become a teacher. You could, being a craftsman, for instance, let's use the example of being a craftsman. A craftsman is holy, it's sacred. You then show the sacred art, you teach the sacred art of being a craftsman. Or let's say you're a writer, you then write and you become a scribe, or you write about the sacred truths and express a spirituality. And again, it's going to be in your own way. All of these new things, we're all going to be doing everything in a new, fresh way because it's a new era. All right, Leo, I hope that was inspiring. You're going to be an inspiration to the world, no doubt about it. Have a wonderful new year. Happy New Year. Namaste. Oh, Leo, I forgot to pull you cards. Okay, let's pull you guys some cards. Cards for Leo with the big shift occurring between their eighth and their ninth house. What is the message for Leo here? Ooh, wow, the death card. Isn't that interesting? And the moon card. That is exactly what I just talked about. Death, transformation of the deep fear. Clarity, clarity. Now we do get this temperance card showing something, which would indicate that is the Sagittarius house. That is the ninth house. So it's like a transformation from the depth of fear, some sort of deep within, um, deep paranoid kind of fear of being persecuted or dying or no God, that you have no divine protection, now transforms into total pure faith. You just have nothing but faith. All right. Happy New Year again. Namaste. All right, Virgo. You are going to have the red light, blue light shift happening from your seventh to your eighth. You have Aries over your eighth and you have Pisces over your seventh. So what is that going to do? Well, that I'm going to pull cards, by the way, for all the signs. That is a big transformation for you because you have learned a lot in your relationships in the last 3 years with Saturn there, where you're clearing a karmic cycle and karmic patterns in relationships that you're doing to fill up your karmic cycle loop. It occurs when you get into relationships, committed situations in order to fill an emptiness, and or also a tendency to make the relationship your life, to find life through a relationship. Pisces energy is very enmeshing, so there's a tendency to enmesh and to escape in having a relationship, escape your responsibilities, maybe escape your own the fact that maybe you don't know how to create a life, so you use a relationship to create your life, so that kind of a thing. So now there's going to be a transformation from that because then you're going to have all the major planets are going to move. We've got this big shift happening with Saturn and Neptune coming into your eighth house, which is the house of joint resources. It is a relationship house. It is considered to be like a marriage type house. It is an intimacy house, but it is also the house of the hidden and the occult. So now what happens is you're going to start finding God within you, basically, and not in a relationship. You're going to find a spiritual connection. You're going to find God through a spiritual relationship. So, in other words, instead of trying to fill your life up with a relationship with empty, you now find God through a spiritual connection, if that makes sense. So, there's a flip in the sense that the relationship isn't God. You now connect with a divine connection and helps you find divine with that connection. And there's a spiritual awakening and magic occurring in a relationship. And so you sort of line up with a spiritual, your true, most likely, oh, for sure, your true person if you're not in a current relationship. And then if you are, this relationship transforms and you find God, and then you become most likely joining resources with your person, and then taking on a big leadership and, shall we say, connector to the occult world, to the hidden, because your Neptune is there. So there's some sort of deep interest in researching and finding out more about the hidden realm. Astrology is the occult. The hidden world is actually the world that moves the material world. So there's this sort of leadership investigation of discovery of the hidden world and the occult and how the unseen world moves and shapes the seen world. So let's pull some cards. Um, and now again, we're looking at being some sort of a leader here because Virgos are usually healers and in earth medicine. So there would be some sort of shamanistic healer search. We get the Two of Wands and we get the Six of Wands, which is a fire energy. Then we get the Chariot, and then we get the World card right behind it. So so basically that Chariot makes me think of Jupiter. But basically there's some victory now and you're going forward. So in other words, you've succumbed the pattern, you've changed your patterns, you've ended that cycle of relationships for the sake of a relationship, or just to have you say that you're in a relationship. And now you're really shifting into some sort of journey with your relationship to discover God together. And it could be through tantric sex, it can be through intimacy, it can be through wandering, discovery, seeking, searching, and learning and understanding the deeper hidden, the wisdom of the hidden, and then perhaps a joint resource venture with your divine mate to become a, shall we say, ambassador of the hidden world. So let me pull a couple more cards for Virgo. I was blanking on the side. The Tower and twin flame. So this is a twin flame card. A lot of twin flames coming into union right now. There is the Aries energy. So it's like we're looking at twin flame union for many, many Virgos for sure because of that karmic clearing, because you would have had to clear a cycle before you could be ready for union. So you're going to see a big shift coming in your relationships, and then you step into your divine connection and you join resources with them, and then you come on some sort of journey with your divine mate to be an ambassador for the unseen and the occult, and to become a leader in some form, shape. Something else happening in your chart empowers you to become a leader here, but also you could also become a leader in helping people becoming financially independent and discovering resources that are liberating, because we're entering into the age of liberation for the people. So we're all stepping in and helping in that process in some way. All right, Virgo, have a wonderful new year, and happy new year, and good luck with everything. All right, namaste. Libra, let's take a look and see where these energies, the big shift is going to happen for you. You're going to have Pisces is in your sixth house. So you're going to have Neptune and Saturn move out of your sixth house and move into your seventh house, where Aries covers, where you will have a big shift in your relationships and how you operate in relationships, and the sort of relationships, shall we say, there's a complete shift in direction in the way that you choose relationships. Let's put it that way. So what's going to happen here is that you've had Saturn in your sixth house of health, where you have been clearing karma that you self-inflict, where you haven't been taking care of yourself, where you stress yourself out all the time, where you have bad addictive escapist habits. It can be through smoking, drinking, or work, or it can even be, let's see, pets. But somehow your health has taken a toll through a repeated pattern of stress related actions and repeat actions that are driven by stress. So they can be bad habits, basically. And or just in environments, in work environments that are stressful, work collaboratives that are not supportive, that have been enemies to you, or hidden enemies. That's the house of hidden enemies. So there's a sort of major transformation happening where you now no longer are willing to throw yourself under the bus in order to relieve some sort of stressful situation in work, or to work your butt off to make a situation better for everybody else. Libras have a tendency to try to make other people happy, and sort of deny their truth in order to make the situation corpus mentis. So now we're going to see what happens now is you're going to have Aries over your seventh house, where you now initiate some sort of leadership in a joint partnership connection, where you've had this sort of revelation in your life where you're no longer stressing out about things and you just want to go have a good time. And I know that sounds very escapist, but you're going to find what you've been looking for in your patterns of escaping through adventure, with a connection with a true relationship, and with a connection that is not a connection that you don't have to pretzel yourself to keep, and a project that you don't have to stress over. There's a fire of inspiration behind this. It's a joint collaborative. Now, it's most likely a divine partnership. It basically, you could be having a child. You could get married and have a child. That is a divine soul contract. So there's that, and then that's a metaphor for creative projects. If that's not what you're in line for you, then it's a creative joint collaborative project that you do together. Um, And there is this inspiration in your connections, in your relationships now, in your romantic and marriage type partnerships, where you're finding that life is inspiring with that person, not try, it doesn't take from you. It's not expensive for you to be in a relationship now. Now you're entering in a relationship where there's a fire of passion in the connection that fuels the relationship. You don't have to fuel the relationship. You don't have to do all the work. In a way, the relationship itself is a magical, divine, spiritual connection that propels through life with that magic.
there's a harmony in it. You're following a harmonic motive in your connections. You're going to find a spiritual, long-term, committed partnership that is your soul person, most likely twin flame. If you're already married and with your person, then this goes up to the next level, marriage. If you're already married, then you take on a joint mission together to raise consciousness in a joint collaborative. Now, Libras are very good writers. A lot of times they're media projects, they're strategizers. I'm going to pull some cards here. Did I pull the chart for Libra? I don't think I even pulled the chart for Libra yet. Hang on a minute. So let's look at Libra. See, there we go. Libra in the first house. You're no longer, there's a balance in your life now in relationships. You're no longer trying to sort of, you're making more balanced agreements in your connections and relationships. You're willing to meet people halfway, and you're ready for the relationship to have a force of its own. There it is, February 14th. You getting married if you're not. All right, so let's pull some cards for Libras here. Now, I do go with the rising sign because that is how we manifest in our charts. But there's a lot you can pull a chart on your sun or your moon or your Venus. Put Venus in the first house if you like. So, ooh, we get the Queen of Swords. Interesting. So they're going to be quitting something. Most Libras might be quitting a job, a work environment, a work situation in order to collaborate with a spouse or a true connection for a Wheel of Fortune, for a fated divine service. There's a sixth house. So in other words, you're no longer working in hard, stressful work situations. You're working with a motivation of service for the greater good with your divine counterpart, with a spiritual mission and co-collaborative venture. And your life is going to, sun card, um, expand in a, I would say, holy sacred union with a holy sacred calling that you both share. All right, namaste. Have a happy new year. Oh, Scorpio, you all are having this big shift from the red to the blue shift happening in your fifth and sixth houses. Let me pull your chart here and show you. So let's take a look at Scorpio here. So you have Pisces over your fifth, so you're clearing karma around parenting, children, friends. So what does that mean, clearing karma around children and friends? And what else could that be? Superficial connections. In other words, friendships that have not been supportive of who you are, that are not really in your team. Basically making friends to escape your reality field, or a reality that you don't like, or some responsibilities you don't want to face, some growth you don't want to face. You run into connections or friendships that are superficial, that end up really not being helpful. It ends up being destructive for you. So you've had a series of lessons around where you haven't valued yourself in these friendships, where you're finding the emptiness from a lack of spirituality through friends. And that was a hard lesson to learn. All of these karmic lessons are hard to learn, no matter what house they're in. But now you're moving into where you're turning your back on all of that drama, all of that mess. And with Neptune and Saturn and moving into your sixth house, you're finding a devotion to a calling and a mission or a work. You're shifting that focus. You realize it was a waste of your time, and that you haven't been focused enough in your true career, your mission. And now you're sort of finding that you are ready to, let me see, my deck is a little messy here. You're finding that you're ready to apply yourself in a very in a way that serves, because that's your sixth house of service. And it is something you've discovered through your karma clearing, that the true friends stay whether you don't have to do anything, that the real connections are that are a part of your future
are divine and held by a soul connection or a soul contract, and you don't have to do the laboring of these connections. Or let's put it this way, you're holding on to these connections for some sort of emptiness, which you've now discovered another source to fill it, which is to be of service and to be excited and inspired about some sort of a project and to devote yourself to that project. Scorpios is a devotion. It is a sign of devotion to something. And so now you found the confidence and you're going to really sort of jump all in and be a leader in some sort of, I could say healing. Scorpios are often medicine. They just are their nature of who they are. They are medicine. And so you really step into some sort of journey to be a healer and to be a part of a healthier future in psychological health, if anything more. But the sixth house can be health and medicine, but you're taking a leadership role in healing the lower density frequencies that are in people's subconscious that need healing. So you're on this sort of mission to be a part of healing for the planet and to sort of underscore the importance of that because it is the undercurrent of the energies below that are actually determining our frequency. And then we're attracting that drama if it's in our frequency. So let's pull some cards for Scorpio. I like this shift for Scorpio. So I'm seeing union too, because now that I see union with your twin flame. If you are not in union with your twin flame, we get an Aries masculine and plus the King of Pentacles, the Aries masculine, which would indicate twin flame. But if you're already in your connection, you take on a joint project together, creative project, have a child together, but you pull together for a creative joint soul contract. You're no longer seeking validation through your friends or validity through groups of friends and people, and even from your twin flame or any kind of a connection. Or fifth house is relationships too. So you may have gotten involved in superficial connections, but if you, or maybe there is a superficial connection that a real connection that you were both inhabiting relationships from a superficial place, goes through transformation, and you become healed of the barriers between love. Let's put it that way. Sorry if that's confusing. And then we get the Queen of Swords over superficial connections, over seven of cup. Sorry, guys. There's the Queen of Swords over the Seven of Cups. So you no longer, and then I have my secret union card. So we're seeing union with your divine connections in order to create your true friends, which means they're supportive of you. They build you up and a true relationship coming in where you go into joint service together. You service humanity and you become leaders in some sort of healing project for humanity. And there is a good chance also if you are of child rearing age that you have a child. And but also you clear your karma with your children and you become not as preoccupied with that drama in your life. And I don't want to say drama in a negative way, but your focus shifts from a distraction around family, friends, superficial connections to really narrowing down to the people that are really important, that really deserve your attention, and then pulling everyone together around you to take on a healing project and becoming a force of healing in the world. Hope that was helpful. Happy New Year. Have a wonderful year. Namaste. Hey, Sagittarius, you guys are having the red light, blue light shift. Really, it's a blue light shift happening from your fourth to your fifth. So you have been clearing karma with your relationship with your mother, or in general, mother connection karma, or through the family lineage of your mother. And it's the wounded center, and it is a subconscious part of our psyche that was driving us to create false families, false living situations, repeating cycles where our wounding from the mother is triggered again, feelings of lack of control in our living environment, feeling not safe in our living environment, unstable,
There's an emotional, unhealed element within us that was driving us to create karmic cycles in families, creating false families. So, um, and also we've had to clear our karma with our mother. I know I'm Sagi's son, and I cleared all my karma with my mother, and then she did pass away. Saturn in your fourth, your mother can pass away. So I'm going to pull cards here for Sagittarius. Let me pop the chart for Saggies here so you can see what it looks like. There you go, Sagittarius. You're having the big shift from your fourth. Saturn and Neptune are going to move into your fifth, where you now, if you are, this could be the time where you initiate a new family that is a true soul related, connected soul, divine intended family. You've let go of trying to force situations. You've let go of control and you've allowed God or the divine to align you into your true family. You're not seeking that situation. You're allowing your intuitive guide, your connection, you found a God where you were seeking your mother, that emptiness to fill, or family to fill an emptiness, or you were using family to create a feeling of safety and security rather than actually cultivate that for yourself. So there's all forms of escapist through Pisces is the area where we were empty, where we lacked spirituality. The emptiness is caused from a lack of spirituality, so we may have been leaning too much on our mothers to fulfill an emptiness or blaming mothers for a lack because we chose our mothers or we were born into the certain mothers that we were born into for a karmic reason, which was to find God. And where we felt failed by a mother, we were supposed to find through God, if that makes sense. So now we have everything shift into our fifth house. We have the Neptune, Saturn move into the fifth, where we now either initiate a new family, have children, and also take on a joint creative project with friends, with your a true relationship, a superficial relationship now becomes super committed. You get married, you have children, create a family, and the family and children is also a metaphor for creating something out of nothing. So you could either start teaching children with your divine counterpart, or a most likely most people are coming into union with their divine mates, and so that would be what that would look like for Sagittarians. And then you come into a co-collaborative creative venture with your counterpart and create more where there was nothing. Now, again, this is also a teaching house. You could start teaching. We get the Page of Pentacles. There could be a writing project. Page of Pentacles shows up. A message where you write and send a message. Sagittarians are messengers. They're storytellers. A tale, any sign that has a tail, like Leo, they're storytellers. They have a tale. You have Leo over your ninth too. Um, so there's the stress, the Nine of Swords card. Let's see what that's about. Well, then we get the Queen of Wands, which is the fire energy. So it's almost like the stress that karma clearing made you strong, even though there might have been a lot of pain, but you now turn it into a story. You turn it into something inspiring. And this is the card. A lot of times the Queen of Wands means talent. So you sort of tap into a talent with your divine mate and you pull into a creative, inspired venture and you become leaders and you lead through a creative project. And also you lead now through fearlessness. You throw yourself into creative passion without any reverence, without worrying about whether it fits in any kind of a genre or whether it's the right or wrong thing. It's you're really fired up and inspired. Wow, we get the World card and the Ten of Cups. There's that new family card, and then we get the World card. It's almost like you're setting yourself free to allow yourself to be in a creative frenzy, and a collaborative. The fifth house is working with friends and people that are really a part of your dharma and your destiny. And you really set yourself free from any self-imposed limiting beliefs and you start to really express yourself freely. All right, Happy New Year, Sagittarius. And don't forget, Jupiter, your ruling planet, is in its exalted sign, and this is a house of luxury. So prepare for a lot of expansive, this freedom that allows you to step into your full creative self brings in abundance. It is the luxury house. It can really activate a lot of a luxury, especially also if you have children, initiate a family and start having children. kind of create abundance. The universe wants us to initiate actions that multiply and create abundance. The universe gives back when we do that. All right. Again, have a wonderful, happy new year. Namaste. Capricorn, hi. You guys are going to experience the big red light, blue light shift from your third to your fourth. Now, the third house, you've had Saturn there for about 3 years, which means you've been clearing karma around the relationships that are immediately around you on a busy day-to-day level, siblings, people you work with, and the karma is created through communication or lack of, shall we say, healed communication. And then on some level, there's an escapist through being busy, through having lots of connections, through having lots of people. And so in order to maintain a certain sort of level of busyness in your connections, there might have been a lack of truth in the communication, or the communication would have had, shall we say, um, for lack of a better word, a manipulative motive. But this is all being cleared. We're going to pull cards on this. So your communication now is not coming from a source of controlling a situation. The communication is coming now, you've healed that from a trust that there is a divine order and that all you have to do is speak your truth and let the divine be in the outcome of what we speak. And and so Capricorns are have a tendency to be very controlling, but they're very hardworking and they want their business associates and their environments and the people that they're working with on a day to day to have sort of they can be sort of demanding on them or have a certain sort of expectation of that. So now the Capricorn is letting go and allowing the true communication um, pathways to open up and flow freely and allow whatever connections that are around you fall away, or the ones that stay, or the ones that are supposed to stay. And also business projects. There's a sort of a letting go of trying to sort of control a community around you, siblings, and then what's happening is you're marching forward to creating a new long-term foundation for your whole life with that Aries and Neptune going into your fourth house, where you now want a where you're now going to initiate a new life involved in a new home, and it's in you're sort of building a new foundation for the long term, a new family, a new home, a new you could become a parent. Um, what else? But remember, this is red light, blue light shift. So you really are discovering a peaceful, Zen quality living situation where you are spiritually at peace. You create a Zen environment where you can then create a family and find a center of peace in your home. Capricorn with your third house is communication. So now what happens, you're going to get into a true stable family situation that is spiritually in alignment for you, that you then find a really stable family home, and then in your third house you develop a new environment around you from people who do stay that do align with your truth, that are supportive of media projects, communication projects. You now are able, you have such a stable family. In astrology, the fourth house really stabilizes your entire chart. And plus, your ruling planet is about to initiate a whole new 29-year cycle. So you're really settling into your spiritual family, your spiritual home. And when I say spiritual, I mean it is the right, it is not a faulty foundation. So you're going to build a foundation on your family on love, a spiritual, divine family connection, a divine relationship, what you really want anyway, Page of Wands. Now, also with that third house clearing karma, you're you have freedom in your paths of in your line of communication. There's an opening there. There's a chakra clearing that you now become a really good speaker. And then your third house is a mission for you where you become a messenger, talker, teacher. Two of Wands, world adventures too. So it's like giving you a lot of excitement or expansion through relationships, adventure through relationships. Again, perhaps children, because Jupiter expands through our relationships, and it might be expanding people through your relationship. World card, and then we get the moon card, and we get that ace of swords. So there is some sort of there it's I think Capricorn are opening up and removing their fears of communication, speaking a truth, because they've got this stable family going on. They feel very secure and stable in a true uh, a good, shall we say, a real foundation, something founded in love and long term, very long term, which then gives you some sort of center of security, which frees you up to be a teacher, communicator, a talker, and to advance civilization through knowledge and shall we say, deliverance of knowledge. That third house, communication, or running a business with your a co-collaborative. All right. Happy New Year. Have a wonderful day. Namaste. Hello, Aquarius. You guys are having the big red light, blue light shift happening from your Pisces house is the 12th. I'm sorry, your second. I've done a lot today, so I'm like, my mind is a little, okay, where is Aquarius? Okay. Pisces is over your second, Aries is over your third. So you're going to be clearing karma around your money and around your health, how you feed yourself. And so it's possible that if we were to be very, the karma could be literally eating out of emptiness, would be an example of Pisces over the second, or earning money in ways and finding ways to earn money and support yourself out of not a spiritual motive, but out of a motive to create, or sort of a fear-based motive. And there could be an emptiness in your life around not feeling financially abundant enough. And so there's some sort of seeking of financial stability and security, or ways to feed yourself, or ways to support yourself that feel like it's never full. It never achieves what you're trying to achieve financially. You don't feel like you're really arriving at a stable financial income for yourself, or shall we say, in a way that isn't draining you, or creating a karmic cycle where you are working in a way that isn't filling your cup. And now you're going to shift, because you're going to have these big planets of Saturn and Neptune move into your third house, where you're going to find that you have let go of those fears, where you suddenly don't care about how you make your money anymore, or even if you're going to make money anymore. You're just like done with being preoccupied with that, or living your life always on a sort of, you know, I'm going to pull cards on this, but like feeling stuck and trapped and enslaved in your how you make your money. And now with that Aries over the third, there's some sort of new, fresh start in wanting to run a business, run a media project, and you feel spiritually sort of say liberated from some sort of fear-based financial pursuit, and you now don't care anymore. It just isn't in your karmic energy. You're not afraid of that anymore. You just can't live life like that anymore. And so now you're starting a whole new beginning with a fresh, inspired, either writing or some kind of a creative project involving collaboratives, business opportunities, or business, but again, with a motivation not from you're shifting in a big way to not be motivated to create financial security and fear that you're not going to be fed. And instead, you go into a passionate, new, fresh start in your life with a business or a writing project where you're delivering a message, or you're selling things, or something that you think is important, and it fills your cup, and you see that you can step forward and lead the world into the new era through the third house, which is media, writing, communication, teaching, informing people, Hermes, or selling. Now, Aquarius is technologies. So some sort of technological venture as well, or a message or humanitarian project. We get the Wheel of Fortune here. Wow. What's beautiful about this message is that you now find finances are just flooding into you without you trying, without you even sort of motivated by that at all. And then your destiny here, you align to your true destiny because you're gonna have an abundance of income with that card. That's a really abundant card because you're motivated by an inspired a motive to serve spirit or to work. We get the Six of Swords, which is like leaving troubled waters and really starting to feel like your life is going forward in a way that does make you an abundance, independent finances because you're driven now by the third house would be the messenger of the gods. So you think it's really important for you to deliver a message. You are the age of Aquarius. You are here to bring us into the new earth and to lead us because you have an inherent understanding of what the energy of Aquarius is about. So you become a messenger and a leader. Eight of Wands, things moving quickly in that we are going to have a lot of planets in Aries in spring. So we're seeing a lot. Oh, wow, I like this. Quitting the four of Pentacles, the Queen of Swords. In other words, you don't have to hold your money back anymore. You're going to start generating enough income. And I do get a communication card. Through communication, you're going to start. I get the Justice card, and we do get the Jupiter card. So we get the Jupiter, we get the Chariot in which is Cancer, which points my attention to Jupiter being there in your sixth house, where you're being of good service, where you're really expanding through a motive of being of service. Chariot card again. Um, Justice card shows up. Ten of Pentacles, interesting. So it's like you become liberated because you quit the karmic cycle of being afraid of not having enough money or not being supported or not being able to feed yourself, and that you would have found yourself taking jobs or ways to feed yourself because you just assumed that by being excited and following your true desires in life, we're not going to feed you. So that's a karma that's clearing. You're now having faith. You're not even thinking about it anymore. You're just going to move towards an inspired project, third house, media, communication, and you're going to be a messenger in the world to help propel humanity forward in the age of Aquarius. And you're going to help everybody learn how to become the independent sovereign beings that we're here to be. And you're going to do that by being a messenger. And then your finances, I keep getting really nice, abundant cards. We get the Ace of Pen. Oh, look at that Tower card wants to come out. A big shift. That's the big shift. You become very financially abundant when you really let go of that concern. All right, Aquarius, have a wonderful new year. And this is the age of Aquarius, so you're going to really shift. This is the point where the age of Aquarius actually initiates. So you're going to find yourself more prominent in the world, or your desires to be, because we're really entering a new frontier. So you're going to sort of jump in and scoop up the opportunities of these new frontiers that are opening up in media, communication, because Uranus is going to be in Gemini. Anyway, not to keep going, but have a wonderful new year. Namaste. Oh, Pisces, sun, moon, rising. You guys are going to have this red light, blue light shift in your first house. So you all are going to be the ones who have an experience of the, shall we say, the biggest transformative experience where you're going to become a completely different person and you will have matured and grown up. You're going to have Saturn leaving your first house. It's been there for 3 years. Your karma would have been not believing in yourselves, not seeing your true value, because that first house, even though it's not really a value house, it's really more of a second house. Should have added that to the Aquarius one. But anyway, um, Pisces are talented and very gifted, and they've been operating in an A type world, and they are not A personality types on the whole. And unless they've got Virgo in their chart. But on the whole, Pisces is not an A-type personality, high functioning. They're more of the intuitive feelers. The more they sleep, the more they connect. The more they connect, the more they know, the more they are guidance for society. Um,
and they're often very creative. So the big shift that's going to occur for Pisces is that they're going to see that who they truly are in a true Piscean way is the new earth. It is, we are going to follow a Pisces more vibe in the sense that we're flowing, we're relaxed, we're more zen, we're not in a hurry. We're taking our time to connect to a higher voice, higher visions, and we're operating from that place. So Pisces are going to, their karma is that they were trying to operate and function in an A-type personality world when they were Zen, or they're the Zen people here. And they're not supposed to be running around like crazy. People push Sagittarius at Pisces. I tell them not to. I have a Pisces sun, so you don't have to push Pisces. They do, they're water. If you push water, your hand just goes right through it. They're going to get there on their own with their own flow. Let's pull some cards here for Pisces. Then you're going to have the big shift of Saturn and Neptune moving into your second house. And so we get the Ten of Wands. So you have been burdening yourselves to try to fit into a world that isn't really, you've been trying to be an A-type personality and trying to fit in the shoes of the dominant way of the world, and you're not that person. And you are a feeler in the world. Interesting. I get the High Priest card. That's the spiritual card. Now we get also the King of Pentacles. So there's a good chance you line up with a true divine connection if you're single, because you found your center, you found God within, you found the monad within, because you've no longer been seeking externally for constant validation to show that you who you are is okay, being that you're Pisces and you don't really fit in the world and on a whole. So they tend to get kind of low self-esteem and not believe in themselves. And so this is going to be a shift where you see the divinity within who you are and the type of person that you are, the shape of a person that you are, and that is divinely intended. And you are supposed to move at a different rhythm than the rest of the world. And you do start to believe in your talent and your gifts. And then with that, now you found, because of that karma clearing in your first house, now you found who you truly are, and you don't want to be anybody different. That Saturn was there. It turned you into it grounded this about you. You've grounded who you are. You can see it. You can taste it. And now as Saturn and Neptune move into your second house, you follow some sort of spiritually aligned or soul aligned way of making money where it's inspired. It's creativity. It's a new way of making your income. Is going to stabilize you for a good 29 years because it is based on a true talent that you now believe in about yourself. You're finding the core authentic voice within you that was divinely given, because Pisces are here to communicate a divine message. They are divine connection. They're the highest dimension. They're closest to God. They're the people that are closest to God. And it isn't verbal. They send the message of God through their energy, through their aura, through their creativity, through their energy sensitivity. Two of Cups, relationships for any single Pisces, Ten of Cups. So the big shift where you become spiritual, where you now have full faith and you walk a path of your work, of your income and your work, more devoted to who you truly are, and rather than trying to fit in an A-type personality world, you're taking your own pace and you're finding the path that you uniquely were here designed to take, and that you're going to have faith that that's going to feed you and that God's going to feed you on that path. So we get the Emperor card coming up for Pisces in the second house. That's the Aries energy. So there we go. We get leadership. We get some form of confidence about who you are with that, all those first house placements. You're now ready to step up and be a leader in this in some way, in the way that actually earns you an income or feeds you or supports you. If you're a musician, for instance, like my son, who never watches these, so I can talk about him, he's going to step into a less secure, what do you call it? A motive to work and earn money in a way that you think it's supposed to be. And now you're going to drop all of that and you're going to step into a creative path
because Pisces are always creative, and walk a path that inspires you, that's creative, and you're going to throw your caution to the wind and allow the universe to pay you for that, which it will, because it is your true path. And so then you become a leader in that. Now I get the Ace of Cups. So that is filling your cup. It makes you very happy. You're going to be emotionally in alignment here with your new life. You're going to be living a life that's emotionally in alignment with the way that you earn your income. It's going to fulfill you. Gives you very stable. Now again, all these new ways of earning income may not bring in the masses of dollars at first, but you're going to see that it is working for you, and that it is working, and things are going to move forward. It's very clear that your other choices of making an income were superficial or not in your heart. They were karmic. Now you're going to find when you follow your true inspired passion, you attract abundance and you become financially independent without effort. That's a zero effort attraction of abundance card. Star card, King of Wands. Um, your ruling planet Jupiter is in what house did we say? Jupiter, let's see where Jupiter is. Jupiter, in your fifth house. Wow. A lot of good luck coming for Pisces with Jupiter there in your in your fifth house. If you are in the age of having children, that could very well be what happens for you now. But in general, you're looking at a new source of income based on your spiritual path, your true dharma, and the calling that employs your true gifts, your true talent, who you truly are, which is magical. All Pisces are very magical, spiritual. It's the most spiritual sign, so they're the most connected. So when you really line up with that connection to source, you'll be really well guided to an abundant path. Namaste. I hope you enjoyed this reading and have a happy new year.